Right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
Tonight, road work worries.
It's going to get worse before it gets better.
The massive hole causing accidents and questions to pile up.
Temperatures today got into the mid-40s. It almost felt like a heat wave in comparison to what we've experienced the last few days. But that is going to change a lot starting Monday. How cold it gets and how long we're stuck in this cold.
Our top story, shattered safety. A 5-year-old injured in the crossfire of a North City shooting.
Who's watching out for kids?
The crime putting a child in the hospital and neighbors on alert. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Bush. Tonight, a 5-year-old child is in the hospital after bullets shattered the peace of his home, tearing through an apartment window as St. Louis police search for answers. The shooting rocked the neighborhood at North 16th near O'Fallon Street. Our Annie Krall spent the day there speaking with shaken neighbors and members of Moms Demand Action, who are calling for change in the wake of this violence.
A 5-year-old boy was rushed to the hospital Saturday night after being hurt by a shooting in the 1300 block of North 16th Street, though he wasn't hit by a bullet. Instead, it was broken glass that came flying at him after gunshots ripped through an apartment window, according to St. Louis police.
We try, as parents, to protect our children from experiencing these things. And as we move about our daily lives, we're hoping that we never encounter it, especially when we're with our children, or that they don't encounter it. However, this seems to be happening more and more to young children, especially younger children these days.
The shooting happened just after 10:30 p.m. Police then arrived at the scene, which neighbors say has been rebuilt in about the last year. Neighbors tell me that these newer apartment complexes on North 16th Street have pretty good upkeep. And besides having a number of children who live in the area, it's also a place in Carr Square where many older adults call home.
We need to have stricter gun laws to protect our young people, our children, as well as the people who are elderly who live in the community.
Protection, Sharon Williams with Moms Demand Action says, would have helped the little boy who had to be taken to a nearby hospital by paramedics. A police spokesperson telling us the child was not seriously hurt. Several neighbors didn't want to go on camera, but said they've experienced instances where more safety measures, besides just the surrounding security cameras, would have made them feel much better at home. Including reviewing video, police say they're hoping to have more information in the coming days as the investigation is ongoing. Annie Krall, 5 on Your Side.
And the group Moms Demand Action is having their first meeting of the year on January 18th at 10 a.m. at the Kings Highway Branch Library. If you have any information about Saturday's shooting, you're asked to contact police or call Crime Stoppers at 866-371-TIPS. Well, meteorologist Gary Frank joins us now, and while we got a quick break from the cold during the day, there's a different story for tonight. And Gary is tracking more cold nights in the weather impact forecast.
Yeah, good evening. As we continue to look outside, it's not all that cold in some spots, but depending on how far north and west you are, you're starting to see that colder air come inside. Not quite as much right now in downtown St. Louis, but you'll see a few clouds around, kind of indicative of our wind shift here, with our current temperatures going from 34 in Chesterfield to 24 in Pittsfield. And we see that cold air that's even as close as maybe Warrenton at 27 degrees. Notice Sparta at 38, 35 in Farmington. You're still on the mild side. And for this time of the night, this time of the year, that's pretty nice. But here's where wind is right now. It's out of the northwest, which is gusting upwards of 32 miles an hour in St. Charles, and you're starting to feel that. Where even though it's shifted in Farmington, Salem, and Effingham, you're not seeing at least the cold air that's rushing in, and that's going to continue to make it feel very cold tomorrow morning. I want you to prepare for temps that may feel like they're near zero as we look ahead to the next few days. I do expect that we'll see this freeze-thaw cycle continue, so be careful when you're walking around tomorrow, bus stop, things like that. But we do have another end-of-the-week warm-up. We'll talk about these ups and downs and if they carry any precipitation with them as well.
Residents in the Hyde Park neighborhood are sounding the alarm about a large hole in the road that's swallowing up cars. The city says it was created by a water main break a month ago that still hasn't been fixed. 5 on Your Side's Laura Barczewski talked with concerned neighbors.
Fatima Muhammad says she started noticing holes popping up in the street near Salisbury and 20th about a month ago.
We started registering complaints because of the holes that we saw in the street, and then finally the cave-in did happen, and the city did respond and came out and put up barricades. However, the barricades seem to be very inadequate for what was going on.
She says the cones and caution tape were not a deterrent. People would get out of their cars and move them to get around it, making it worse.
To date, we've had, I believe,
At least four.
Vehicles that have fallen into the hole. And thank heavens for fire station number 8 right up the street. You know, they've come and rescued people. The young lady last night had to be taken to the hospital.
This was the scene from Saturday night. A good portion of the SUV's front end went straight into the hole, which the city of St. Louis says was caused by a water main break on December 13th. Alderman Rasheen Aldridge is also concerned.
With the cold temperatures and the snow has made this water main break become even worse.
Residents are asking for a more permanent barricade so no one else gets hurt.
Just zoom on through because it's their side of the street or something. Or they think they can make it and the other people think they can make it and then they crash.
Aldridge says he's working to do what he can.
The water main break is shut off, so we don't have to worry about any water leaking or anything like that. But until we're able to fix it, right now what we're going to do is completely block off the street.
Reporting in St. Louis, Laura Barczewski, 5 on your side.
The city does not have a timeline for this repair, but the work will continue. They urge caution when driving near 20th and Salisbury. Tonight, an Illinois congresswoman is fighting to get compensation for Metro East residents impacted by radiation exposure. Representative Nikki Budzinski visited a former dumping ground for radioactive materials in Venice, Illinois. Budzinski is now working to reauthorize the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. A move was blocked by House Speaker Mike Johnson. She says she hopes hearing these local stories can reignite the importance of RECA. Budzinski says there are several different ways to get RECA reauthorization back on the table. Preparations are underway for inaugural ceremonies in Jefferson City tomorrow. Governor-elect Mike Kehoe will swear the oath of office at noon, along with 4 other first-time statewide election winners. New at 10, our political editor Mark Maxwell previews the transition from the Missouri State Capitol.
Tonight is Governor Mike Parson's last night with the keys to this governor's mansion. This time tomorrow, a new governor will be making this his home. Governor-elect Mike Kehoe celebrated the eve of his inauguration at a large party with supporters cheering him on. He thanked them for donating a combined $20 million to his successful campaign. And Kehoe braced his supporters for the cold weather outside Monday on the south lawn of the Capitol, where he'll deliver his inaugural address, joking that he's whittled his speech down to about 47 minutes. The ceremony will include a 19-gun salute, a flyover, joined by the Budweiser Clydesdales later on, and an inaugural ball Monday night. Former U.S. Senator Roy Blunt will be on hand to help administer the oath of office.
You're going to get a hard-working governor who really understands our state. I think you'd have to search long and hard to find anybody who spent more time in every part of our state than Mike and Claudia Kehoe. He's going to be a great leader. Glad to be involved tomorrow.
Kehoe, a former state senator and successful businessman, went on from being a car salesman to working in the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission. He forged relationships with business and labor and campaigned on a pledge to protect funding for key government services while offering tax cuts if the state can afford it.
When you say we're going to cut the state's income tax, I've made it very clear this is not a light switch. It's not a magic wand where all of a sudden one day you're going to have it, the next day you're not. You're going to have to create, and we have some ideas, and we have been doing this historically, a responsible ramp to where when general revenues grow, there's room for a tax cut and still provide essential services.
Also on deck at the inaugural ceremonies Monday, the Attorney General, Secretary of State, the State Treasurer, and Lieutenant Governor, all 4 newly elected to their offices. 2 of them are incumbents because they were appointed, but all 4 elected for the first time will also swear their oaths to their respective offices on the South Lawn outside the Missouri State Capitol Monday just before noon. Reporting in Jefferson City, Mark Maxwell, 5 on your side.
And we'll have live coverage of Governor-elect Kehoe's inauguration tomorrow on air and on the 5+ streaming app. It's free on your Fire TV, Apple TV, or Roku. A final harvest serving as a final remembrance.
The generosity was overwhelming.
The farming farewell showing the deepest roots aren't found in the soil.
That's rural America for you. Most people, look out for the neighbor next door.
After a brief break from the cold, we're going to start to dig back into that cold, but I'm already eyeing the 3rd week of the month for perhaps a set of weather impact days. What that means for you and how cold it may get for that 3rd week.
Making a Difference is sponsored by Midwest Bank Center.
In farm country, the distance between neighbors is measured in acres, but in times of need, it's measured in minutes. In tonight's Making a Difference report, we take you to Clinton County, Illinois, where neighbors become family. In Carlisle, Illinois, the strongest roots aren't found in the soil. No one knew that better than Kevin Campworth, who spent his days working at the local oil company, while his heart worked the land.
He definitely loved farming. That's what he grew up with, but it also is part of him.
For 43 years, he balanced both lives. Then fate handed him a gift when his daughter Whitney married John, a farmer's son himself. Together, they worked these fields of corn, soybeans, and wheat, developing their own special language.
He would give me hand signals in the field if we would pass, trying to tell me what to do. A lot of times I didn't really understand it, but it's just a little joke we had.
If you had to describe your dad and the type of person he was, how would you do that?
Very hardworking, kind, and generous. I'm sorry.
This past autumn, the unthinkable happened. Whitney got the call no family ever wants to receive.
My dad was farming, harvesting a field, and was in an accident.
As the family wrestled with their devastating loss, 140 acres of soybeans stood silent in the fields. But before darkness could settle, the phone started ringing.
The first thing that came to my mind is, we need to go check out the family, make sure everybody's okay, and then, let's try to help get his crops out.
What happened next left even lifetime farmers speechless. The morning sky filled with the rumble of engines as 15 neighbor farmers left their own harvest behind and pointed their machines toward the Campworth fields.
There was 5 combines pulled in, and we had 4 semis hauling grain and 2 grain carts to help handle the grain during harvest.
A task that would have taken Kevin and John weeks to complete was done in just hours.
I guess that's rural America for you. Most people, look out for the neighbor next door.
You can have differences, at a bar or something talking around, but, but when some tragedy happens, that's put on the wayside.
And the tribute wasn't finished. At Kevin's funeral, a line of antique tractors, the kind he loved to restore, stood guard outside the church. And with each passing day, Lou Alice discovers new chapters of her husband's quiet generosity, written in the memories of neighbors.
It just reassures me that we chose the exact place we should live, that Clinton County is very neighborly but loving and are willing to just go the extra mile just like my husband was.
That's this kind of guy he was. He'd drop what he was doing.
In the equipment shed where Kevin spent his happiest hours, friends now gather to share stories.
He would offer help all day, bring fuel out.
Kevin approached this man who was homeless and said, obviously you're hungry. He said, come with me.
Each one a reminder of why they dropped everything to help.
Kevin was the fella that did that for a lot of people that was never noticed. He did a lot of...
And didn't want to be noticed.
Didn't want to be noticed.
They say you can tell a lot about a farmer by looking at his fields. But in Clinton County, Illinois, they know a farmer's true worth grows not in his crops, but in the neighbors who harvest his legacy.
The generosity was overwhelming.
And those tractors at Kevin's funeral weren't just any tractors. They were the same ones he'd spend weekends restoring, which was his passion. And a reminder, if you know an inspiring person or someone making a difference, let me know by email at mbush@ksdk.com. A live look now over downtown St. Louis. That snow was starting to melt, but those chilly conditions aren't going anywhere. Meteorologist Gary Frank rejoins us now with the weather impact forecast.
Yeah, as the snow started to melt, it's going to be back to freezing overnight. We'll get those slick spots even in some of the spots on the drive home tonight, just because, some of those overpasses with all that snow piled up, it melts and it's going to refreeze. So watch out for that, especially as you walk outside. Otherwise, temperatures are still above freezing in many cases, like right now, even in downtown St. Louis, we're 36 degrees. degrees. We've got a west-northwest breeze at 12 miles an hour. We got to 44 today, but I think 34 may end up being pretty close to what our low was for the day. And, you know, that's where we were this morning. But I think over the next hour or so, we'll probably fall closer to about 32. So we'll get close to it. We're still above average regardless. You can see where this really cold stuff is. Low teens, and that's what's rushing in. You can see it in Kansas City, Kirksville, and even as we zoom in just a little bit, I do think over the next several hours, you'll notice that our temps start to fall into the 20s. And eventually, by the time you're back up tomorrow morning, if you're going to school, bundle up on the extra side, because I think by 6, 7 o'clock, we're in the upper single digits, low teens. I mean, it's going to be cold outside. We had just a little bit of breeze, 0, maybe below 0 in some cases, what it feels like. It's going to be downright cold. So this is a shock to the system after, like I said, I described it as a heat wave because it felt so good to warm up, just get some sunshine outside. But tomorrow, you're going to see a lot of sunshine, but it's going to be a foolish sunshine with temps in the mid-20s and a northwest breeze at 10 miles an hour. It's going to feel like it's in the upper teens. Now, the overall trend for the United States from the 20th to the 26th is that we are going to be colder than average, not only locally, but in general, and that's from the Climate Prediction Center. And we'll show you what that means here, because I think after we get rid of this cold, we're actually going to see things that are a little milder here for a couple of days. And those are some warm days to finish the week. But it's this cold that digs in Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and kind of sits here and I think continues to deliver levels of cold for us. So what I want to look ahead, and we talked about this just a little bit earlier, looking ahead at maybe the 20th, 21st, 22nd. At some point during those days, it's going to get really cold. And I think we're talking about 15 for a high, 20 for a high, something like that. And we're going to figure that out. But I do want to talk about the next 10 days. Overall, we're drying out. You know, it's going to be a sloppy mess here for a little bit. But that Arctic blast around the 21st, and those are the days that I'm highlighting. Very low snow chances in general, but as we start to see that system that works its way through, and we'll talk about the first half of the week because it's cold here, 20s and 30s, 45, 51, lots of melting, lots of wind. Then as that cold air settles in, that's where I think we may see that change here behind that. Right now that looks like a minimalist system here, but still the cold air into the first part of next week is what we'll track.
Time to go on the move. I'm Paul Cook, your traffic guy from Today in St. Louis. Okay, it's the most heavily traveled bridge in Missouri by the amount of cars. And you probably don't even think of it as a bridge. I-270 crossing over Conway Road in Town and Country. And the work on it may have impacted your commute already. So I wanted to update you on the construction improvements on I-270 just north of 6440 at Ladue and also Conway Road.
Excessively complex with the amount of traffic. It is the most heavily traveled bridge in the state of Missouri with around a couple 100,000 cars a day. So anytime you are going to be even removing one lane, both northbound and southbound, it's obviously going to be a very heavy work zone.
Ryan Piercy is MoDOT's engineer in the Southwest. He explains plans for the area and what's being done.
A lot of the additional pavement's been put in, so you'll have that additional fifth lane going through kind of between where you can merge from going 64 and going northbound all the way up to Olive.
The Interstate 270 bridge over Conway Road needs to be replaced. The bridge over Conway and Ladue will be widened in both north and southbound lanes. That means the ramps to 270 and 64 will also need work. But our current winter weather lately is obviously affecting some of that progress. For a detour, try taking New Ballas on the east side of 270 or Mason Road to the west. Ryan Piercy told me this construction is expected to be complete in November of this year. I'll update you if that changes. Stay safe out there. Paul Cook, 5 on your side.
Coming up, an incoming danger adding fuel to the fire, the new element threatening the fight against the Los Angeles wildfires. Right now, multiple wildfires are still raging across the Los Angeles area. Firefighters have been able to contain 2 of the 6 original fires. However, powerful winds are racing toward the area again, and that could threaten their progress.
These winds, combined with low relative humidities and low fuel moistures, will keep the fire threat in Los Angeles County very high.
The winds are keeping all red flag warnings in effect through Wednesday. Firefighters say they worry the winds could strengthen the fires or even start new ones. The fires have already destroyed nearly 40,000 acres and killed at least 24 people. More than 100,000 people have been forced to evacuate and are now looking to the city and state for help.
Lots of tears, anger. We're going through the stages of grief. There's no doubt about it. We'll get through it. We've gotten through challenges before. This just feels like the biggest thing that's ever happened to us. But we will get through it.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is now suspending state requirements for permits to help fire victims rebuild their homes and businesses faster. Developing tonight, President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced they're making progress towards a ceasefire in Gaza. Both say previously opposed leaders in the Israeli government are now supporting this plan. Their ceasefire deal includes the release of all hostages and increased humanitarian aid to the region. Israeli officials had previously rejected any ceasefire deal from President Biden. Today, one 7-year-old girl escaped the war in Gaza to get critical medical treatment right here in St. Louis. The group Heal Palestine greeted Tala at Lambert International Airport. The nonprofit funded the whole trip so she can get treated at Shriners Hospital. Tala was born with multiple congenital deformities in her arms and legs, and advocates say they hope the care here can improve her quality of life.
I'm really excited to get to know her and help her with anything she needs during her medical care here. Our whole community is really excited to welcome them.
Tala is the second child brought from Gaza to St. Louis, the first one now back in Egypt after receiving medical treatment and waiting to go back to Gaza. We'll be right back. Before we go, Gary has a final check of the weather.
Yeah, it's about to get cold outside. Big difference from when we came in earlier this afternoon to what we're going out to right now. And you'll feel that. Our 24-hour temperature change, you can see the warm air mass to the southeast is leaving in favor of the other one. And it's going to change quite a bit. This is what it feels like outside right now. Already feels like 12 in Pittsfield, 18 in Litchfield, and in the 20s now. And what we're going to see over the next few days is a cold start to the week. We only get into the mid-20s. Warmer days Thursday and Friday, and then a change by next weekend. That's what we'll track for next week. We'll be talking about some serious cold air.
And there you have it, 5 on your side at 10, a late edition. We're always streaming on 5 Plus. Sports Plus with Frank Cusimano is next.